Joe.
Hello, it's the Hipster King from the Hairy Game Lords, and this evening we have been playing this Escape Tales Children of the Wyrmwoods by Board and Dice. What do we think? Stay tuned and we'll let you know. Right, well, I'm holding the box because I've got a physical copy of this, but this evening we played the tutorial, the prologue, if you like, on Tabletopia. And oh my days, to steal a phrase, this was absolutely captivating. It grabs you straight away, it draws you in. If you like a story, and choose your own adventure and any of that, this game is just so good. Immediately Andrew's like are we going to get to play the rest of this, because the on TTS, on Tabletopia, you only get the prologue. So it's like, it's okay, we've got the game, so when we come out of lockdown, or possibly we're going to try and work a way to play this on Zoom with the rest of the guys, so that we can get through the rest of this story, because we are already desperate to know what happens next. Like any good prologue, it leaves you on a proper cliff edge, and you are, cliffhanger. You just don't know what is coming next. Plenty to come. So absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, so good. I mean, I do the reading because I put on voices and stuff like that. So Pete was like, "Hey, read us the first bit." So that first page that you read through, and even from that point, even before we'd started the tutorial, I was like, "Oh my word, I'm hooked." I'm hooked from the first paragraph. It had me. I was like, yes, I'm in. So we've played one of these escape tales before. We've played Low Memory, and we found that brilliant. It was so good. But this one, whether it's the theme or whether it's just some new mechanics in there, we were like, yes, oh my word. Just even more so. I mean, I didn't even think you could feel any more excited. From Low Memory, it was brilliant. Loved how the whole thing was done with the looking at the cards and then pulling out different things that you see on that initial kind of like board like card thing, where you think, oh, what about this idea here? And it pulls up a closer image. That was brilliant. But this one, oh my word, I loved it so much. Comes with like an interactive app that helps you sort of like work out, input some of the clues and stuff like that. And then it comes with this new mechanic of combining cards.
Oh, so good.
So good. So good. Tell us about it, Pete. What do you do?
So, trying to do this without putting any spoilers, but in essence, at any point, you might be a little bit stuck. And you might be thinking, what on earth can I do? Now, like all good kind of escape room things, and if you've done an escape room, and I'm sure they differentiate, because we get a few clues that come through the loudspeakers when they realise, no, look over there, or there are hints, and we needed a few hints, and that's I think the joy of a prologue. It takes you through all the ways that you're going to do that. And so at one point we took a hint, and it said, why don't you try combining? And what we did is you wrote two card numbers in. Some of the cards you've got a card as a character. You play a character in this, and I think that's one of the things that really helps, because you really anchor into the story through this character, and that character's got stats, so there's a little bit of a feel like RPG, and those stats are going to go up and down, and different things that you're going to do can affect your stats. So you waste too long doing something, that's going to give you negative stats. And what the way the game rolls on as you go through it is, at different points in sort of end points, or kind of save points in stories, depending on your stats, you will go to one of two different options. And so the story branches throughout it. So I said choose your own adventure. There are some choice cards, but also the choices you make and the way you solve your puzzles and the puzzles you leave decide the way you're going to go through the story. So going back to I've branched off. This is what the story does to you. Going back to the combining of cards, one of the hints said, why don't you combine those cards? So we chose two cards, not going to tell you which, and that helped us unlock the hint we needed to be able to start solving that puzzle. And then from then on, there are things like you can put two items together, so you might have a key and a lock, and that's an obvious one to combine. But there will be other things, I'm sure, in the stories where you combine less obvious things together but they allow you to combine a lot of things just to give you some fun flavor text as well. So, when we were stuck, we tried combining random things, and it still gave you some fun. So the combining mechanic was really good. And the other mechanic that they've tweaked, and I think it really adds something. So in the previous games, you've had the way it works, you've got five. Well, you start with a set number of actions for the start of the story, and they're little in the solid game. They're just little wooden tokens that you're going to place on spaces, and you're going to fill spaces on a little grid up. And each time you choose one of the grids in a picture to look at that area of the picture, you place on a small sort of a grid reference map. You place the counter onto that, and you read the paragraph in the book that comes with this game, the little booklet, and that paragraph will tell you the next bit of the story about that section. There are always more squares than there are counters, and so at some point you're going to probably run out of those counters. You have two options in this game. You can rest, that will take some time, and will probably have an impact on one of your stats, or you can focus, which means you kind of work extra hard and you get extra actions that way. So you either rest and get extra actions, or you work extra hard and get extra actions. Both of them will have an impact. Both of those impacts will be different, and as a result of that choice, the path you follow through the story will change. So I think the selling point of this game is that you could play with one group and another group start at the same time. You could play exactly the same game and have a completely different story because of the way what you choose to investigate, the order you do things, the priority you put things in. Some of those stories aren't going to get, some of the paragraphs don't give you anything other than a bit of flavor text, but that flavor text might come in useful to support you down the line in the story. So you've got all those decisions to make, all of which will have an impact on how the story unfolds. So we've only played the prologue. We're going to come back later on and do a second part to this review when we've played a bit more of the story to tell you what it feels like as you go through. This is a game that can be played in a number of parts. There are sort of two major story sections, and then there's an epilogue at the end, which is quite short and can be played after chapter, if you like, the second chapter of the story. But they talk about it being roughly 2 to 3 hours for a main chapter. So you've got I'm just looking on the side of the box. It's saying roughly a 450-minute game in total.
Brilliant.
Trying to do the maths. 6, 12. What's that? You're talking nearly 8.5 hours, something like that.
Wow.
I think if I'm maths, in total, if you were to. So obviously, this is a game you're going to play in sittings. There's a save mechanic, so you can save it up to the point you've got to. But just so much to it. And actually, at the price point it is, to get 8.5 hours out and such a story out of a game, you feel like you're going through a film, but you're playing part of that role. It's just like the same feeling as when you're really captivated by a brilliant book, yet you're in a game and you're playing it with your mates and you're working things out. It can be soloed, obviously, but
Brilliant.
brilliant.
Roll on that 8 hours. It's like a full day of work just playing this game. Amazing.
Too right. So make sure, if you haven't already, this one is already out in all good FLG. So get down to your local shop and see whether you can pick this up. And while you're there, they have got 2 other games in this series, both of which offer a very different type of story, and both are brilliant. So definitely check those out. So big thanks to Board&Dice for sending us Escape Tales to take a look at. And this one again gets a huge thumbs up. I am well into this.
Absolutely. Cannot wait to get into the rest of the game. Amazing.